I've just come from dinner with a couple of my friends, and we were talking about the Fast and the Furious movies. And we were discussing their sort of very interesting naming convention. If you don't know, let's see. Let me just write it out for you. Okay, so we have the Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7, The Fate of the Furious. I've put in the spin-off here, Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. You'll find out why in a minute. F9, Fast X, and Fast X Part 2. I haven't watched these movies at all, but I am fascinated by the naming convention because, what is this? It's completely inconsistent. But my friends and I were eating Chinese food at a lovely restaurant in the city, and we were discussing these movies, and we were saying what world could exist in which linguistically this makes sense. So what we ended up coming up with was a base 12 numbering system, and you'll notice that's why we included Hobbs and Shaw, just to round out a nice 12 titles here. A base 12 ordinal numbering system for saying first, second, third, up to 12, and then it's theoretically can continue to any number if you do the calculations. So what I'm going to do is write that out for you now. Okay, so this is the system we came up with. As you can see, it basically takes all the Fast and Furious titles and puts space within them for you to put in whatever the subject you might be talking about. So the terms we have here are A, B, C, and F. Now this isn't mathematical in any way, and it's not even really linguistic. It's just the way we came up with to help conceptualize this, where A equals the first significant part of the word or phrase that you are, I guess, counting. So it would be fast in the original title, but let's just use the example of days of a month. So we used February. If you're trying to say a day in February, for example, if you're trying to say the 1st of February, you would say the Feb and the Uary, with B, of course, being the second significant part of the word. Now, A plus B, as seen in A plus B Tokyo Drift, this is essentially the entirety of the phrase that you're trying to use. So, excuse me. So it would be February Tokyo Drift, if you're trying to say the 3rd of February. But as you can maybe tell, we've been a bit loosey-goosey with the way we've separated the original phrase, the Fast and the Furious. So if you'll have a look at 4 here, that we've interpreted as fast and furious. So it's essential to include the and if you're trying to use the ordinal number 4. So the example would be Feb and Uary. 6, on the other hand, which by all accounts has the same naming convention as 4, so where 4 is Fast and Furious, 6 is Fast and Furious 6. We've said that Fast and Furious that's just the entirety of your concept. The important part is to add the 6 on. So, don't look too deeply into our logic here. This is just what we found that works. Now, our other terms here. We have C in number 8, the C8 of the B. That is your first letter of the phrase you're using, pronounced. Oops, how do I spell this? So as opposed to the F8 of the Furious, they've gone with the fate of the Furious. So maybe February is a bad example because it's the same start, but let's say March. Or no, let's go with July. It would be the jate of the lie. And then F down there at F9, which is actually 10, that is your first letter, just, I guess, said. So, in the original it's not F9, it's F9. So with these terms all laid out, you should be able to say any number from 1 to 12. And yeah, the example we used at first was dates. So if I wanted to say the 2nd of March, and that's a good example actually, because it will allow me to explain what we do with single syllable words. Single syllables are reduplicated. So what that means is you, whenever an A or a B are on their own, you just say March for both of them. So 2nd of March would be 2 March, 2 March. 2nd of February would be 2 Feb, 2 Airy. And yeah, as you can see, I'm not splitting up the word February perfectly. I'm leaving out that first R, but that's just so it rolls off the tongue a little bit. We want it to simulate a sort of real language. Now that we've gotten this out of the way, let's try and represent an ordinal number above 12. So this is a base 12 system, which means any number above 12 will be as follows. Numbers from 13 to 23, you just say 12, then immediately follow it with the number that you would add to 12 to get your number. So for 13, you'd say 12, 1. For 15, you'd say 12, 3. Then once you get to that 24, you can start saying 2 12s in a similar way to how we say 20, which means 2 10s. So if you wanted to say 29, you would say 2 12, 5. 2 12s to 24, plus 5 is 29. So if you wanted to say the 29th of August, one of my favorite dates, Michael Jackson's birthday, I believe, if I recall correctly, you would say 2, which would be 2 or 2 gust, 12, or X part 2, 5, or 5. Oops. Okay, so the 29th of August ends up being 2 or 2 gust, or X part 2 or 5. Now if you wanted to do, let's say, the 25th of December, the birthday of another famous person, 25 is 2 12s plus 1. So that would be 2 de December de X part 2 the de and December. To de December de X part 2 the de and December. That would be how you say the 25th of December. Now, we then figured out how to apply this to times as well, where you just say the equivalent of what would be the hours and then the minutes. So let's take the time that I'm recording this right now, 9:16. It's just turned 9:17 actually, we'll do it like that. So you take 9 and you say the thing you're counting is the hour. So the 9th hour would be hour presents Hobbs and Shaw. I'm just going to abbreviate that to PHS, but you've always got to pronounce it fully. Hour PHS, hour presents Hobbs and Shaw, that's 9. And then the minutes are 17, which is 12 plus 5, which would be min X part 2 min 5. So to say the time is 9:17, say the time is hour presents Hobbs and Shaw min X part 2 min 5. Now, let's explore some other things that you might use ordinal numbers for. Let's say you're discussing the Star Wars films. You know, as they came out, the order was changed up, and we discussed, me and my friends at the Chinese restaurant, we were discussing negative numbers and how it might be funny if the prequels were labeled as negatives, but I'm not going to go there right now. Just let me know if you want a future video talking about the possibilities there, but let's just make a little chart here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, these are Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Now, in this world, in this speculative world where you use our Fast and Furious ordinal numbering system, you would in fact still call these movies by their names. But if you were trying to be quick, as we do sometimes in this world, and instead of saying The Rise of Skywalker, you just want to say to your friend, I just watched Star Wars 9. Or you would say, I just watched the 9th Star Wars. Instead, you might say, I just watched Star Wars Presents Hobbs and Shaw. And going through all of them, the specific way of saying each one would be The Star and the Wars, 2 Star 2 Wars, Star Wars Tokyo Drift, Star and Wars, Star 5, Star Wars 6, Wars 7, The Sate of the Wars, and of course, Star Wars Presents Hobbs and Shaw. Other things we can do with this, if we imagine perhaps the Marvel Cinematic Universe, of course, they all have their own different franchise names, so Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Cap 1, Cap 2, Cap 3, etc. But let's imagine a world in which every MCU film is named Iron Man followed by a number. So the true Iron Man 2 would actually be The Incredible Hulk, which came out right after Iron Man. Avengers Endgame, the 22nd film in the franchise, would be called Iron Man 22. In that world, the most recent film, which is, one second, the most recent film, which is, as of recording, Fantastic Four First Steps, which is, unless I'm mistaken, the 36th film, would be titled as follows. 36 actually being 3 times 12, Iron Man Tokyo Drift Iron X Part 2. Recent one I watched, which I quite enjoyed, having not enjoyed a lot of them recently, is Guardians 3, which is the 31st film in the franchise, I believe, which would be 2 times 12 plus 7, which of course would mean that Guardians 3 was actually titled 2 Iron, 2 Man, Iron X Part 2 Man 7. I want to leave off with something else that is often numbered. US presidents. They often are known by the ordinal number of their title. So let's take the current US President, Donald Trump. He's one president who is in a rare club, having served 2 non-consecutive terms. He was the 45th and 47th US president. Let's see what his title would be in this system. So 45 is 3 times 12 plus, apologies while I do this in my head, plus 9. And 47, 3 times 12 plus 11, which means that Donald Trump is both the President Tokyo Drift Pres X Part 2 President Presents Hobbs and Shaw, and the President Tokyo Drift Pres X Part 2 Pres X. I hope you enjoyed that little lecture. Obviously, I'm not a mathematician or a linguist, so let me know if there's anything wrong with this system. I also have to give some credit to my friends Zach, Alec, Lauren, and Jack, who are there with me and have just now been outed as people who are interested in such things. Yeah, let me know if how you would improve this system, and also let me know if you want me to translate further things into this ordinal numbering system. Have a nice day. Peace and love.